Hello, I'm Bob Liodice, President of the ANA. Today we have a unique opportunity, an opportunity to listen to the marketing thought leaders talk about the power of brands. Brands are at the heart and soul of all the marketing that we do today. It's the number one objective of marketing managers, is to find ways to build their brands. We have a unique opportunity today to listen to those marketing thought leaders, discuss and debate how in fact we should be thinking about our brands. The ANA is a unique resource to help its members in its particular marketing efforts. The ANA's primary mission is to provide its members with the marketing intellectual capital for members to be able to build their businesses and their brands. With us today is Jim Garrity, who's Chief Marketing Officer for Wachovia. Jim?
Bob, as you well know, this project was undertaken by First Union in 2001. And the original intent was to provide these marketing experts on tape and to use those for developmental purposes for our professionals in marketing at First Union. It was an opportunity to really leverage the network that the ANA provides and give us access to these great topic experts. Some things happened along the way that caused the project to be put on hold, and one of those things, not insignificant, was a merger between First Union and Wachovia. The merger is well on its way now. We have finished the editing of the videotapes and in fact have learned some things about building a Fortune 100 brand from scratch in our own case, and I'm very happy to share some of those learnings with you as well.
The power of brands, so let's listen to the experts.
In simplest terms, I think a brand is a promise that delivers on consumer expectations. It says to the consumer, if you do business with me, here's what you can expect. And I think a brand is more important today than ever. Consumers are overwhelmed by choices and have more pressure on their time than ever before and are bombarded with more forms of communication than ever before. And a strong brand is one way for you to cut through the clutter and connect with consumers.
What is a brand is a question that can be answered one of two ways. Short answer is the following. It's the commercialized value of the trust between a customer and a company. And they probably at the end of the day, that's the best definition. The more expansive definition is a brand has a perception. A brand has a meaning in the consumer's mind, really composed, I think, of three things. First is the positioning, what the brand promises to the ultimate consumer of that product or service. A brand also has a personality. A brand can be friendly, can be more austere, can be reserved, can be laid back. And a brand has an attitude, which is what people think the brand thinks of them. In essence, a brand is a way for someone to get a handle or an understanding of a product or service.
A brand, as far as I'm concerned, is simply a promise. It's a promise made to a customer, an end user, about the product or service that is being delivered by the manufacturer or brand owner. It's a very simple statement. It's one that's understood and meaningful to the customer.
A brand, plain and simple, is a promise. It is a promise by the organization to deliver the products and services with the highest quality possible. That promise must be delivered each and every time. It is very clear that the role of advertisers and marketers today is to ensure the appropriate communication of that promise, no matter what form that delivery takes place. That form could be straight and traditional advertising, but as we know today, that form is evolving into different marketing communication forms, be it over the internet, be it through sponsorship and event marketing, through our multicultural marketing efforts, through global marketing. Each and every form of communication must consistently deliver that same brand promise.
I think I'd have a four-word message for anybody. You are the brand. You are the brand. It's not the advertising, it's not the signage, it's not the letterheads, it's not the flyers and the posters and the brochures. You are the brand. And how you behave is the customer's experience of the brand. And no amount of advertising can overcome that impression.
Great brands have found over time that storytelling can be very powerful. It's almost like Indian folklore, where the tribal elders, before they pass on the wisdom of their culture, and it gets passed on from generation to generation. It's not reading a manual or going through an orientation course where you actually remember the basic tenets of the brand. It's when you hear people tell about how somebody delivered an extraordinary experience, multiple employees delivering extraordinary experiences, and the reactions that customers had as a result of that. And typically they were very loyal customers, and those stories resonate with employees, and they get spread from employee to employee, and they help employees just determine day in and day out, how can I behave in a way that that person did that really delivered on the brand promise in an extraordinary way?
I believe that building a brand is everyone's job, from associates that touch the consumer every day up through the CEO. And I think an important first step is everybody understanding just how important they are to building a distinctive brand, and just how important they are to connecting with consumers and helping consumers understand all dimensions.
At GE, we have an advantage with all of our employees understanding the brand promise, because the brand promise has become almost a part of the DNA of the company. The reason that I say that links back to the issue of the consistency over time.
Well, I think everybody must live the brand. Live the brand, believe the brand, support the brand, understand the catechism that goes along with the brand. In many companies who have been successful over time, that actually meets from time to time, so powerful was that company in our minds and hearts and souls. And I think that's what you really need to do. You really need a strong brand is made up of people who are the strong brand, believe it, sustain it, support it, celebrate it, have pride in it.
And companies with great brands have to embed in their culture and within their employees and associates that feeling for the brand, an understanding of the brand deeply, almost below the conscious level, almost at the subconscious level, at the value level, the psychologists would call it. So a brand culture is, I think, absolutely essential for building a great brand.
In any company, but especially in services companies, the prerequisite for building a strong brand is execution, execution, execution. It is the operational excellence that matters. I find it very fascinating that it's possible for creative people to come out with all kinds of exciting brand names. But if you don't deliver what you promise or create the promise, you fail miserably. So you may have the early excitement because the brand looks very interesting, exciting, the logo is great, you know, the mascot looks good, but you got to deliver ultimately. So ultimately, all it matters is operational excellence.
You know, one aspect of a brand, you can talk about brand formulas on paper. You can put a brand promise in a sentence or two, or perhaps a paragraph. But it only works truly when an employee gets it in the gut and in the heart. You've got to be able to internalize what that brand stands for. If you want your brand to be perceived as you intend it to be perceived by external audiences, it's got to start from within. So every employee has to reflect the brand promise in every behavior. Every customer contact builds your brand. The brand is the sum total of customer contacts over a period of time. So every employee needs to understand that every opportunity they have for customer contact, whether it's face-to-face, over the phone, online, through written correspondence, through a direct mail campaign, through an advertising campaign, has to consistently reflect that brand promise and the passion that goes with it.
I think there are two things that have helped build the GE brand more than any other. The first is we picked a simple, compelling, and as it turns out, pretty generic promise for the brand almost 100 years ago, long before my time. Previous marketers figured out that the promise was that we're going to make people's lives better, particularly in the home, where it's most visible and most ubiquitous. But the second thing, which is actually more difficult to do once you've found the promise, and the thing which I think has distinguished GE and allowed it to build itself into a very powerful brand, is consistency over time and across all touch points with the customer.
The most important thing for any organization is to get its employees behind what the brand is about. Everybody has to know the brand, everybody has to live the brand, because everybody communicates the value of that brand with respect to its relationship with the consumer.
And that's why it's critical to be cascading and constantly communicating with your employees, reaching out to the employees in the sense that engaging them to get them to buy in and understand your marketing strategy, get them to understand and buy in your advertising and communications approach, get them to understand your overall brand and business building philosophy and model so that they can find where they link into that whole process within the organization.
But while advertising was an important part of bringing the message to consumers, I think the real key to the Sears turnaround was re-energizing 300,000 associates. Everyone from frontline sales clerks to individuals that worked in logistics to people that staffed the call centers through our management team. They all embraced the new vision of a store that was compelling to shop, a place that was a compelling place to work, and a company that would be a compelling place to invest.
When we launched our brand development efforts, we spent practically 4 months just on getting the brand development and the brand strategy right, with absolutely no discussion of advertising. It was a fundamental opportunity to get the brand right, to determine collectively in a very participative way with our senior executives exactly what this brand was going to stand for, what customers should expect from us, and what employees should do to deliver on that brand day in and day out. It was only after we got the fundamental promise defined that we then started working on advertising, which is just one lever in our arsenal of marketing communications weapons that we have to help build the brand.
My philosophy on brand building is that I think too often individuals and organizations get focused on that marketing is advertising and advertising is marketing. And so I always try to talk about the notion of don't just talk about brand building, but talk about brand and business building activity.
I believe while it's difficult to operate in this new digital world we're entering, that brands actually are going to become more important. The trust of a brand, especially as related to financial services. It's an important part of a consumer's life.
You know, in spite of all of the talk about the internet and depersonalization of service and delivery, I think the continuum has moved in the other direction, and I think customer contact has become an even stronger driver of customer satisfaction and loyalty than it has been in the past. And as far as channel strategies or internet delivery, it's really getting those all together in a single package so that the holistic experience for the customer is seamless across your channels, and it's also seamless in terms of how they experience the brand. The power ultimately, though, is when they have contact with employees and come away with a very satisfying experience as a result of it. So technology will continue to enhance delivery and ways to holistically deliver the brand, but it's people that are ultimately going to deliver the brand and build the most successful brands in the future.
I think in many ways, traditional companies may have an advantage in building a relationship with consumers. I think at the end of the day, the internet is a new channel, a new utility, a new communications medium. And I think traditional companies have the ability to build on the framework of all of the relationships that they've really maintained with consumers while embracing the new capabilities of the internet. I would say that through this period, there's probably been 3 lessons that I think have been most important. The first is really connect with your consumer, understand who that consumer is. The second is build a strong brand identity and surround that with 360-degree marketing to make sure that every element of your marketing mix is consistent, that everything that touches the consumer conveys that consistent brand identity, whether it's your television advertising or how you greet consumers when they walk in the door. And last is to stay flexible. We are going through a period of unprecedented change, and many of the things that we talk about today are true today, but may be different a week, a month, or a year from now. So I think embracing change and staying flexible may in fact be the greatest learning of all.
One of the things we forget is that people experience brands on 3 levels. They experience a brand on a functional level. What does the brand do? How do they use a brand? But they experience it on two other levels. The emotional level, how does it make them feel? And the self-expressive level, what do they become as a result of interacting with that brand? We spend too much of our time thinking about the functional part. What does the brand do? We have this offer, we have this new program, we have this new system, we have this new product. The reality is that there's almost no leverage there. Everybody has the same of those. The difference is in how people feel doing business with you, what it is you allow them to become, a smarter customer, a more savvy money handler, whatever the brand essence may be. Those are the areas where there's true leverage.